So today I'm going to talk to you about one of the coolest bikes ever. And no, it's not Paul's Look Blade. It's over here, Commensal Supreme. So this bike has been brought into us by a young little shredder who's just got into the downhill scene. We don't really get many of these in here that often, so it's really refreshing to see. It's got a high idler, big massive 29er wheels, lovely set of boxes on the front. What more could you want? So the rider of this beautiful bike, a young lad, about 13 years old, he's just getting into downhill. This bike here, it would be at home at Danny Hart's Descend Bike Park, and you might have heard of that name Danny Hart somewhere before.
We've got the whip! What the hell? How does Danny Hart sit down with full flat big dude?
Anyway, let's now move on to these key booking issues. So it's come in here with a few issues. We've got this little badger down here. What we can see is right here is a very loose bolt. And you don't really want that on a downhill bike for obvious reasons. The territory that goes with these bikes is usually very steep and very rocky, so we don't want this bike falling apart. Another problem, Exhibit A, this wheel, I can move it independently of the rear end. Quite scary. We don't really like two-wheel steering here in the mountain bike world, so we kind of need to sort that out. If you come around here, we can see our third problem. Now this is completely rounded out, as you can see. I kind of know why that's already happened, and that's basically because our young shredder took a big massive Allen key to it and tried with all his might to undo that Allen key bolt. Sadly, he didn't realise there's a pinch bolt on the back, and that pinch bolt wasn't loosened, so he's just rounded it out. Luckily, it's not bad enough where we can't extract it. I've already took it out once just to inspect. But anyway, what we'll do is we'll crack on with it and we'll see if there's any other issues. Hello. We're back. The equipment does look a bit odd, but that's because Paul and Hannah have gone off to Italy and taken the majority of equipment, so I've got my camera and we've got this old mic. But it's going to work, we're going to make this work. So, bike is in the stand, we've stripped everything off. You've probably seen a time lapse we might have put in there. We have a headset in bits. So over here, we have everything laid out. This is the top section. As you can see, we've got a wear ring around this little top cap here from where it's been rubbing because we've been missing a shim out of there, which we've now got. We've put that in there. This bearing is going to the bin. This is the lower bearing. This is worse for wear. It's fallen apart on removal. It felt a bit grindy when I was turning the handlebars and we didn't really like it. So yeah, we thought we'd strip it and inspect, and that's what we found. Bottom bracket, that's also dead. You can see, you can't really see that, but it is. When you spin that, it's just not good. So we've got replacement headset bearings here. We'll dive into that later. For now, we'll talk a little bit about the suspension. We saw this before on the Trek. We've got a little bit of wear going on here. Some of the bearings aren't rotating as they should be. So I'm putting my finger in there, trying to spin it, and we're getting a little bit of a rock, but not much. It's very grindy. In order to remedy this, I've called the customer and said, can we replace all the bearings? They said, the budget's a bit tight. We've already got a lot going on here. Can we do anything about it without spending too much? And I said, well, we'll try and replace the ones that need replacing as a sort of band-aid fix. We've got this lovely crank. It's suffered from the classic wear signs of a dub crank. Now, it could be alignment, it could be worn out bearings. When we run our finger or thumb over the surface though, it's not too bad. You know, it feels relatively smooth. So it's just took the anodizing off for now. We need to monitor that, make sure the rider knows. So we'll take a picture of that and send him on his merry way. Now, this is the more interesting part. What's this? It's not a jockey wheel. This is a idler wheel. And to ask what does an idler wheel do, I think I'll direct that question across to Dan, our resident suspension expert.
So the idler brings the chain up and over the pivot, because if it wasn't there, the chain growth on this suspension design would be so much that you end up ripping mechs off, which you got with some older downhill bike designs. So it routes the chain up, over, and then back down to reduce the pedal kickback effectively.
So, pedal kickback. If you're a mountain biker, you've probably heard of pedal kickback. It's been all over Pink Bike recently. We've got new technology from E13, new technology from DT Swiss, and we've got bike brands over the past 4 years that have been making idlers a thing, like Commensal, who else?
Commensal, Forbidden, Trek.
And is it a thing or is it a fad?
I think it's a means to an end. The fact an idler's on there is sort of just because they want the high pivot, so you've got that rearward axle path.
So, moving on from that, we've now got some hubs to service. We will go into that in a second, and we'll talk about the LG1 E13 hub. So let's talk about the LG1. So this is an E13 hub and it's a bit different to your normal sort of hubs. The reason for that is it's quite a wide hub, allowing for more strength in the wheel build. So as it doesn't allow for much real estate around where the free hub body is, we are kind of confined to a much smaller space. E13's problem solving solution to this was to basically convert this into a really short 7-speed setup. Now this is compatible with 11-speed and 10-speed chains, and that's how this works, much like what SRAM do with their setup when they've got a 7-speed, they should have a spacer behind it. That's kind of what this is, but without the spacer. So you've got a very, very small free hub body that's integrated into the cassette. So that's why this is different. The positive side of this is it allows E13 to come up with a better solution in terms of gearing. They can allow for a much smaller drive pinion here at the bottom. This gear is 9 teeth. So that 9-tooth gear allows you to basically pedal really, really quick and get a really good top speed out of it because of the gear ratio. And then also it allows it to be one unit where we haven't got any lock ring, anything to go loose, there's less to go wrong. They can build the bearings inside it pretty sturdily. So that's their solution. The downside to this, it's quite a pricey article. At the moment of filming this, these are around about £145, I think. You don't have to replace them often, but when you do, it's quite the big jolt of, oh my God, how much? It's a bit more than your Dior cassette for £100, but not quite as bad as your XD drive cassette, which is £200. So it's bang in the middle. The reason we replaced this one, we're missing a tooth right here. So because we're missing that tooth, under power load on a downhill bike, when you're really going after power, not ideal. We want to have all of the teeth there so the chain can engage on them. So that has had to be replaced. So another advantage to having this 9-tooth driver is we can effectively drop down our chainring size. And the reason for that might be just clearance issues. So when you're on a downhill bike, you're doing these big sendy jumps, you're bottoming out the bike's suspension, you're going to be really low to the ground. That big chainring at the front, we can go from a 36 down to a 34, or maybe a little bit smaller if we really want to, and we can effectively not touch the floor with our pedals flat. Also, the bearings in the wheel were all goosed as well. They were all really, really loose. That's what was giving us back-end play. Free hub body's not doing too much better either. You can see by all of this grease and detritus that it's not in a good place. So, to be honest, we're doing them a favour, replacing that. That is a big thing. The new one also comes with a slightly bigger first gear, so it will allow them to get a bit of better acceleration off the get-go and get the pedalling speed and cadence up really quick to then drop down the gears. They've allowed for more strength in the wheel, different sort of gear ratios going all the way down to that 9-tooth drive gear, and it's just a different hub design to what we're used to. So we're finally all back complete. Sadly we couldn't film the whole rebuild process. We've run out of time to do that. We need to get this back to the customer so we can carry on shredding on the slopes. The whole bike is now where it should be. It's in a safe, rideable condition. As with a lot of the jobs that we see, 99% of the stuff has been done, sorted exactly where we want it. However, there's a few things we'd like to have done. We've replaced some of the frame bearings, but not all of them due to budgetary problems. All of the bearings in there that were needed to be done, I think there was the main pivot link here and the lower pivot link here. These two have all been replaced. The centre pivot link sadly hasn't. We've had to skip out on that. With the rest of the bike though, now we're riding okay. Let's just talk about how much it's cost. So our breakdown, we've got our labour, which is a £370 full rebuild cost. That allows us to do basically whatever we need to with this bike. So we've done the suspension, We've done the pivot bearings as we could. Headset bearings has been done, bottom bracket's been done, rear wheel, front wheel, all of that has been sorted. The costings for those parts, so the LG1 cassette free hub is $144.95. That is by far the most expensive item on this repair bill. That covers the free hub body and the cassette because it is one integrated unit, as we've touched on. We've got the 2 hub bearings for that wheel as well, which are £12 in total, £6 a bearing. So that's that sorted. Bottom bracket from SRAM, £44. Headset, which is $13.87 for the lower and $11.99 for the upper. The rear axle is a bit of a special one. In an ideal world, we'd go to Common Sol and buy it. However, they don't have it in stock in the UK, and it's not in stock due to the fact that this is an older model from 2020. So we've gone to Robert Axle Project and we've got one of these axles. We've then got the idler wheel bearing, £4, and the frame bearings, which have come to £40 and 95 pence for the ones that we have used. A full kit would usually retail around about £100, so we've managed to basically go half price on it, you know, just around that area by just buying those individual bearings that we needed for that part of the job. So that's the full spectrum of components that have brought us up to a grand total of £699.76 with labour included. So if you like this content and you want to see more of this content, tell us down below. So don't forget to like, subscribe if you want to see more.